So I'm driving out to meet a new client. He's been in touch. Don't know really where I'm going. It's quite far out into the wilderness, really. I don't even know who I'm meeting. That's the weird thing about it. They found me on Gumtree and called me up to come and record something with them. I mean, it could be a crazy person. It could be like an old widow who wants to keep me captive for her boy toy or something. But we'll find out when we get there. So I'm here at the house. I'm heading up the stairs now. A long way up. It's funny. There's no one here. I've driven about 100 miles into the snowy wilderness and there's no one here. Ah, well, I'm sure it's fine. I'm going to head home now.
Hi, are you Joe?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Chris. It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and nice to meet you too. You the guy who made the call, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you so much for coming all the way out here. It's really kind of you. It's a really kind thing to do. You've got such a lovely face.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, we're going to have such a great day. I'm so excited. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to get started. We're going to be great friends. Hello and welcome to episode 115 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris and joining me in our remote log cabin is Joe.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for answering the ad that I left. It'd be great to talk about a horror film with you for a change.
Yeah, no, we never get to do this.
Yeah, I of course, on this podcast have a different host every week for reasons I won't discuss.
Yeah.
And this week's film is Creep, the 2014 Patrick Bryce film, starring Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a two-hander.
Well, there is a disembodied voice on a phone.
Yeah. But,
uncredited.
Yeah.
So apparently played by Meryl Streep.
It's not true.
No, that's a lie.
Yeah.
See if you can spot the lies dotted throughout this episode.
Yeah. It's a film about a pathological liar, in fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the film is Creep. Yeah. Which is available on Netflix in the UK and probably everywhere else in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's worth seeking out. It's only about 80 minutes long and it's worth watching. And this was a film that was recommended by a listener, Kat, who got in touch on Facebook and recommended the film. Yeah. And we watched it. So if you would also like to recommend a film, then the email address is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. The Facebook is facebook.com/howtosurvivepod. And of course, you can get in touch on Twitter @howtosurvivepod. As is our want, we'll be discussing the film in all its glory, spoilers and everything, before we go on to talk about how we would survive. So without further ado, on with the show.
All right, we are leaving the flatlands and we are heading up towards the mountaintop. The ad said $1,000 for the day, filming services. Discretion is appreciated. A yellow door. And realizing that no one knows I'm here.
Hi! Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
I'm assuming you're Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron. Nice to meet you.
Joseph. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is gonna be a good day.
Aaron, a freelance videographer, goes to work for a man named Joseph after answering his Craigslist advert.
Good name. Joseph.
Good.
That's my name.
Yeah. Joseph simply wants Aaron to record him throughout the day to make a kind of memorial video diary for his unborn child. Joseph has terminal cancer. The pair prepare to go hiking, and Aaron is startled by a large wolf's head in the closet, which Joseph explains belonged to his father, who would wear it and pretend to be a friendly wolf named Peach Fuzz.
You forgot one part where the first scene they have to film is
Joseph in the bath.
Giving a bath to his as yet unborn child, and like playing with it, like, oh, got your nose, and it's weird.
It is weird, yeah. So friendly wolf named Peach Fuzz.
Yeah, that's the next.
Also
weird
weird.
thing.
Yeah. While hiking to supposed healing waters, Joseph leads Aaron to a secret waterfall where he writes J+A on a rock, drawing a heart around the initials. Throughout their time together, Joseph repeatedly scares Aaron, laughing it off as his weird sense of humour.
Yeah, so he like jumps out from behind bushes or cupboards or doors or anything he can find.
At a restaurant, Joseph reveals that he took photos of Aaron before they met, as Joseph wanted to get to know him. As Aaron prepares to leave that night, Joseph confesses that Peach Fuzz is in fact a mask he wore to rape his wife in order to confirm his suspicions about her animal pornography habit. Which is pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
An unsettled Aaron drugs Joseph's drink and tries to steal his car keys, taking a phone call from Joseph's wife, who says that she is in fact Joseph's sister and that Aaron should leave because Joseph has some issues. Aaron finds Joseph guarding the front door dressed as Peach Fuzz. After a scuffle, the camera cuts out. When the video resumes, we see Joseph burying bin bags in a forest and actually discover that we're now watching a video Joseph sent to Aaron weeks later.
Yeah, so we're led to believe that this is like the next scene.
Yeah.
But actually it's...
something that Joseph is filmed.
Aaron escaped to safety and has now been sent this cryptic DVD.
Aaron thinks it is a threat and begins having terrible nightmares about Joseph and himself. Joseph begins a campaign of harassment that involves sending gifts and videos to Aaron's house, including a heart-shaped locket with their photographs inside. Aaron phones the police, who laugh away his concerns. One night, Aaron hears a trash can fall over outside and investigates, not realising that Joseph is outside. A few nights later, Joseph takes the camera and films Aaron sleeping, cutting a lock of his hair. Living up to its name. Joseph sends Aaron a final video in which he says he found the locket in Aaron's trash. He says this triggered some self-reflection and he is going to get help, but wants to meet Aaron one last time to apologise in person in a public place. Aaron, against his better judgment, goes to the lakeside meeting spot and sits on a bench. Out of his sight, Joseph arrives, dons the Peach Fuzz mask, and swings an axe into Aaron's skull, killing him instantly. As a kind of goodbye, Joseph films himself watching the murder tape and says how much he admires Aaron's naivety and kindness, claims he loves him, and considers him to be his favourite of them all. As he takes another call responding to his advert, he puts a DVD labelled Aaron in a cabinet full of dozens of DVDs with various names.
Yep, and that's
how Creep ends, apart from one last double jump scare.
Yeah, that's a bit rich at the end, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Is it? We'll find out.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So what did you think of Creep?
What do you think I thought of it?
Did you think, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
Yeah, that's right. I thought when I was here before I couldn't look you in the eye, actually.
Yeah. Did you think you're special? Fucking special.
Yeah. Well, I was completely with the film for about 40 minutes.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good. The location changed though, going from like the cabin to like the present day, or however you want to put it.
Aaron's house.
Yeah, it was a change of direction, I think, for reasons that I'll come to later on. But the big reason though is the fact that it cuts like almost poetically with a piece of like digital interference.
Right.
So like he runs at the wolf, or the wolf runs at him. And like on impact, you get this like, right, which I haven't seen done quite so awkwardly since like when we covered Blair Witch.
Right.
Which whenever anything scary happened, you'd get this like like static
Clipping,
and buzzing. Yeah. But that as an editing technique is just really distracting, I think, and quite cheap.
Right.
In found footage movies, I mean. And I think it would have been like significantly more powerful to have, say, like an off, like the camera just falls to the floor, they fight, and someone runs away. Like that's all you need to know, really. And it's probably scarier in that sense, rather than just having like a jump cut.
Right.
And then afterwards, he's like, he's talking to camera and saying, "Oh, I got back home okay. I don't know where he went. He just ran off." It's like, "Oh, come on, that's pretty lazy writing, isn't it?"
Well, you see, I feel like we're our opinions of the film seem to have taken a change at the same point in the film, but like in different directions. Because I think that the way that because like obviously for the first 40 minutes you think the whole film is going to be like this one night in the cabin, and it's going to be really claustrophobic and uncomfortable and, you know, frightening.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the left turn it takes in the sense that it then changes location is actually quite good, because it like recontextualizes everything that you've seen, and then it becomes less a film about being trapped somewhere with like a lunatic, and more about being stalked. Right. And then like that's like almost more of a found footage film, because the you know, it makes sense that he would want to document it, just as it makes sense that he would like keep the camera rolling during that day because he's being paid to do that. Like, it makes sense for him to continue to document the weird things that this guy's doing, and like it would have begun to stretch credulity if like after he's fighting to get out of the cabin there's like any more film. Do you know what I mean? Like if it all took place in that one night.
But I don't know, man. Like we'll come to the whether he has a right to keep filming, because I've got a note on that later.
Okay.
But I think we are basically polarized at that exact point,
right?
Because I mean, in the house, it plays out like a tight two-hander, right? It's like Saw. He's like a really tightly written.
Yeah, it's like Misery or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got two people, and basically you got two men, one who's insane and one who's vulnerable, and they're just trying to outsmart each other because they both have like opposite intentions.
Yeah.
Out of the house, back at Aaron's house, you have a man unnecessarily and awkwardly explaining everything that happens to him to a camera, and like literally the only reason he'd have for doing that is if he thought he was going to die and that someone would like have to piece through it afterwards.
Do you not think he's documenting it as evidence? Like,
no, I don't. Because like he like wakes up in the night and he's like, "Oh, how did?" Like, there's one point, right, which really was like, it bugged me quite badly. I think like he says to camera, he watches the video and he's like, "Well, I'm going to chuck it in the bin, and that's that." And it's like daytime, and then he wakes up in the night and he's like, "That wasn't that." Like he's got such a like
he's edited this together himself. Like,
and like why him recording his dreams? Who does that? Who is he recording that for?
I take your point, but I think by that point it's sort of like becomes such a like hysterical film anyway. Yeah, like the moment he's like guarding the front door in a wolf's head. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. But I guess like there's something to be said that like it would have been nice to see the film where he does end up stuck in the house with him for the whole night.
Like I quite liked that, and it's like two people outsmarting each other, and you like you continually think, well, maybe he is just like a vulnerable person, like this, not like maybe he is just a creep, like a weird guy, but he's actually quite lonely and he just wants a friend. Yeah, and then at the end of it, to have him, you can still double cross him and hit him in the head with an axe, but. Like maybe he like slowly brings him around to his way of thinking. He's like, "Oh, maybe he should stay," and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he can still manipulate him, but it's more powerful to have that, I think, than to have like, "Come and meet me at the lake." Oh, sure. Yeah. Like, and why did he film himself changing the locks? Just things like that, right?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I guess the longer it goes on, the more it leans on the like uncomfortable found footage traditions.
Yes.
But I think if it had stayed in their house, it would have had the same issue, wouldn't it? But I mean, maybe it would have been cool to see the film where at that point onwards, you're just with Joseph the whole time. Yeah. And he's filming it just because he likes doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe he's like, that Aaron escapes and now Joseph has the camera.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it as a sort of like over the top hysterical thing like that. And I think you said about Joseph, like it seemed like you felt he tread the line between being like obviously insane and okay really well.
I think that is probably, I mean, I sound like I'm just complaining about the film. There were parts that I really liked.
Yeah.
That slow reveal that he's actually a nutter is a good one, because the first like big, I mean, obviously he's like an unusual person, but the first like clue you get in the fact that he's not really what he says he is when they go to the restaurant and he's like, oh, do they do pancakes here? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I thought you said you come here like every day. He's like, yeah.
But they changed the menu. So
Yeah.
Well, it's the it's good because even after he's become a creep, like that doesn't equate to like serial killer.
No.
Like, which is what he actually is. And I think once you know that, like once you see at the end the big cabinet of DVDs, it like casts a different shadow on the rest of the film when he's like being like awkward and weird and saying things like the thing about raping his wife and all that sort of thing. That's not someone who's mad. That's someone who's like very coldly calculated that this is a scary thing to confide in someone.
He just wants to scare him.
Like, so he's doing it all like intentionally. And so like not only is like, as Mark Duplass is the actor who's playing him, so not only is he playing like someone who could believably just be a sort of damaged and vulnerable person, he's playing someone who's playing that. Like, and it works really well, I think. Like, I think his performance is the best part of the film.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good because it's literally 50% of the film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's very good. I actually watched him recently in The One I Love, which is also on Netflix and also came out in 2014. He's in that with Elizabeth Moss from Mad Men.
I think I've seen the poster.
Yeah, it's without saying anything too much, it's quite close to coherence.
Okay.
It's like it dresses itself up as being like a romantic drama or romantic comedy, but there's a lot more going on.
Okay.
So if you enjoy the work of Mark Duplass and previous How to Survive film Coherence, I recommend checking it out on Netflix. It's really good.
There you go.
Yeah. Having said that, you're right. He is the best part of the film.
Yeah.
His performance is really good. But I mean, the standout moment though is clearly the axe murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, it plays out incredibly like minimally. There's no sound really because it's so far away, the shot, and it's a really stark scene in an otherwise hysterical film. Yeah, which is why it works.
Yeah, and it's like really, it's you spend the whole scene basically not believing that they're going to go through with it. I think, or at least I did. And I think it's brilliantly done. Like the way it just because as you say, it takes so long to develop. And like him putting the wolf mask on, like, and getting it out from under his jacket and putting it on, and then the axe and everything.
Yeah, just to be clear, because I think we described it earlier on, but basically Aaron goes down to the lake and sits on a bench looking out over the lake, and he's just sort of like distracted by the scenery, I guess, because it's quite a nice day. He's waiting for Joseph to come and meet him, and he just walks, like, you got like the whole frame, and they're right in the distance.
And they're like in a tiny corner of the frame as well.
And it takes ages for him to walk over, put his mask on. Like, then he reveals that he's holding an axe. And then there's like a big thunk.
And he's doing like a lining up his swing for ages and stuff. And then it is just like a quite quiet sort of thunk going into his head. And he slumps over and stuff.
And that's that.
Yeah. And it is just like very coldly done. And it's very good, I think. Now.
Fucking hell.
So that's scary, isn't it, when I do that?
Yeah.
Right. This film does that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. That made me jump.
Now, what that was, Joe, is a jump scare.
Right. Okay.
Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Yeah. Let me just scroll back through the 114 movies we've covered before. See if it's come up yet.
Yeah. There's a lot of them in this film. And as we said in the recap, Joseph sort of passes them off as his like wacky sense of humour.
Yeah.
And it's like my feeling with it is that they're obviously, I think, to some extent trying to make a comment on people using jump scares in horror movies and like using them in found footage movies. And the problem is that it's very difficult to make a comment on something if you're also just doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like as much as I appreciate that they might want to say something about like people using jump scares, it falls flat if you're just going to constantly use them anyway, like, and not do them in any sort of clever way. It's just literally having jump scares in there and then going, oh, I'm really sorry about that, I'm really sorry. It's like, just don't have them in there at all.
Exactly.
If you don't. But like, I think what quite a revealing fact about this film is that obviously Patrick Bryce and Mark Duplass are sort of close friends,
right?
And they shot a lot of this film sort of just the two of them hanging out and improvising stuff, and then showed it to mates to sort of get the flow of it and figure out where the film is going. And that's the sort of thing that you do to scare mates. Yeah, exactly. Because you revel in their, like,
it's almost like
panic and that.
Mark Duplass always on set jumps out on people or something.
Right, but it's not so charming when you're not sitting in the room with the person doing it.
No, exactly. Like, it was funny when you made me jump just now. Yeah. But if you did it 10 times tonight, I think I'd get it, the joke would wear thin.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the first couple of times in this movie, I was like, okay, I can see what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I quite like it. It's a clever and original way of sort of circumventing what is an annoying trope.
And you do get like the sort of post, like after effects of it, where Aaron's sort of like visibly angry about it.
yeah. That's it. But like the problem is with any jump scare in a movie or jump scares, if you do it too often, the fact that it's an annoying trope becomes a medical fact, and you just get annoyed.
Exactly.
And I always find movies that end with like a lunging screech, like in Paranormal Activity is a good one, like lumbering up to the camera and going to finish. It's like, fucking it's not even scary because you know what's going to happen. It's just like, get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insulting, really.
Yeah.
And this movie, I went away like, no.
Annoyed by it. Yeah. It's annoying rather than frightening, because there's a difference between being frightened and being startled, I think. Yeah. And it comes down to the wrong side of that.
No, exactly. Like at the end of, say, like The Mist, that you're quite frightened at the prospect of like humanity, and, like, man's inhumanity to man, or like just the tremendous difficulties someone might go through in life. And then in this one, you're just like, shut up.
Yeah, I'm annoyed. Yeah. So this is one of like what I would say a sort of certain style of film that we've covered quite a few times in our run of podcasts. It sort of reminds me of films like The Invitation and Coherence. Maybe It Comes at Night a little bit. Like those sort of lower budget, interesting sort of American independent horror movies. Yeah. Which for me at least, I know you had mixed feelings about Creep, but for me they're always the more interesting ones to talk about and to watch.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, because I feel like obviously there's the obvious elements like not being involved in a franchise, not having like the pressure of studio influence to make a film that's marketable.
Popcorn film, yeah.
Right, yeah. And like, you know, lower budgets means less responsibility and more room for experimentation.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you say. I mean, strip back means you therefore get to be creative.
Yeah.
You're kind of forced to be because you have to stand out from everyone else, right? Because you haven't got the marketing budget behind it. So you do end up with scenarios and concepts that you wouldn't get in a Hollywood movie. So you get a couple going to investigate Bigfoot in Willow Creek, or you get,
two people on a camping trip in backcountry or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's creative because they're doing what they can with very limited resources.
Right.
And that's interesting, like you said. But it doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's interesting.
Yeah.
But they always do stumble when they try to behave like a Hollywood movie. And I think Creep does verge into that territory a bit. If you see what I mean.
In what way? The jump scares?
Well, I think like the examples you gave earlier, like It Comes at Night and Coherence and The Witch even.
Yeah.
They try really hard not to be Hollywood movies. Their horror, it comes in like creeping dread and uneasiness, right?
Yeah.
Like you said before, it's frightening, but it's not doesn't make you jump.
It's not it's not making you jump. Yeah.
Right. The things like Lights Out or Creep or Paranormal Activity or Don't Breathe, they all start out with that really high and tight concept. Like blind man in the house and he's an SAS guy and he's going to get you, right? That's a really cool idea. But like that plan to create that creeping terror is always in the film somewhere, but then it all nearly always gets let down by like letting tropes like jump scares or forced dawns or, you know, the guy with the book who tells you what's going on.
Right.
Like they sneak into the film and eventually become a big part of it, and you end up getting let down by that, I think. Whether it's aspirational, whether they're trying to behave like Hollywood movies, or whether it's like the studio saying, we need you to do this or we can't market it, can be debated until the cows come home. But I think it's the difference between an interesting film and like a really unique film.
Yeah.
So The Witch is like unlike anything you've ever seen. I think that's fair to say. There's no movie where you go, this is so similar to The Witch. It can remind you of The Witch. Whereas with Creep, you're like, well, this is...
Yeah.
I've seen a found footage movie before.
Right.
I've seen everything in this movie before somewhere else, you know?
But do you agree that Creep is more towards the trend of those other sort of more
I do.
independent?
Yeah. I just mean like at the final hurdle, it's kind of let down by that fact.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Really, I still think there's more in it that is, you know, that interesting independent spirit than there is just the Hollywood audience chasing jump scare farm type movie. But yeah, I take your point.
There's more artistic intent in this than there is in other movies.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I guess also it's a bit of a passion project because you've got Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce who wrote, directed, and starred in it. Right, so it's like you and me making a movie on a camera now.
Yeah,
right now. I'm sure that's all that went into it.
Yeah. I think overall it's an enjoyable film, and I think it sits among those. For me, at least, it sits among those films.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
In that group.
I guess also when you're on a small production like this, you have much more limited access to great acting talent, and that can, you know, you could get lucky with It Follows or The Witch. I didn't really like Aaron's character in this. I thought he was a bit like boring. Okay. It's just maybe I didn't like the character. It didn't mean he's a bad actor.
Yeah.
But yeah. But also like independent and small productions like this, like they're either going to be a complete opus, which a director has like planned his whole life for, and he's like self-funded and bankrupted himself 100 times to get done. I mean, The Witch has that feeling like he's, you know, it's like Kubrick-esque. It's like a singular vision of how it should be. Yeah. And
I guess this one Creep is more like freeform by its nature. So it's, you know, and it's a lot of it's improvised. So it's never going to have that sort of singular artistic vision in the same way.
And I think you either get that artistic vision or you get something that smells a bit of, you know, newly graduated film school student.
Yeah, it does have a sort of student film element, but I think that also plays into what I was saying about it being a film that started out as being something they were just making for their friends. I think that is, I think, a pretty good way of thinking about it, because it really does feel like a thing that you would just make as a
fuck about
bit of a jolly. Yeah.
Do you think it's jolly?
Jolly old film indeed. So we move on to our signature part of the podcast, and that is, of course, How to Survive. So, Joe, how would you survive in Creep?
Well, first of all, I was thinking throughout, and as I'm sure you were, call the police. Just call the police now, please. Call the police now. Why haven't you called the police yet?
And then he does.
He does call the police. And he like babbles through like, I think I'm being stalked. He sent me a present. Oh no, don't laugh at me. Oh no, it was at a cabin. I think it was his cabin. I don't know. He didn't explain to me. I don't know who he is. I think his name's Joseph. I don't know. Right. And I was like, well, if he'd gone, look, I'm a freelance filmmaker, and I was hired by a man to go out into the woods and film him on a private project. Ever since then, he hasn't left me alone. He sent me a knife in the post. He sent me a video of himself appearing to bury a body. I think he's intimating that he's going to kill me. I'd like to speak to someone about my own safety, and I'd like to take steps to secure myself. Right? That's how he should have done it.
Right. Okay. Well, I also had a thing about police, which we can sort of bring into this, I think.
Yeah.
Which was that... I mean, you remember the DVD collection he has at the end?
Yes.
What's your conservative estimate for how many videos and DVDs are in that cupboard?
Videos and DVDs, quite a few, but that doesn't mean, he had several for Aaron, for example.
Right.
So is your question DVDs or is it bodies?
Well, what I was suggesting by that question was basically that Joseph is a serial killer, basically, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like that's the implication.
Yeah.
Which means that the police are like, surely they've had phone calls of this nature before.
Yeah.
Right. Surely someone has phoned up and going like, the key parts of this are basically man, cabin, hired for a job.
Yeah. Filmmaker.
Yeah. And threatening me.
Yeah.
Right. So
only killing videographers.
Yeah. Like you're looking at dozens of murders potentially.
Right.
That's a big cupboard full of things. Right. And like, are these the worst police officers, detectives or whatever that we've ever come across in How to Survive? Not only are they not discovering that there's a serial killer out there, but they're literally laughing down the phone at people who are trying to like bring it to their attention.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And like he had an axe, he got hit in the head with an axe.
In public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we assume that they didn't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a whole new level of incompetence, isn't it? Like not discovering, not even realising that there's a serial killer on the loose.
Yeah. It's pretty...
Despite
it's
the fact
a small
that
town. It's
potentially
like
had multiple victims phoning them going, help!
Yeah, but like it's not going to be LAPD. It'll be like that.
I'm not asking for
the old guy from Misery who's like goes out on his own.
I'm not asking for like Marge Gunderson to like put all the pieces together herself.
Yeah.
But like, there's a certain amount of like due diligence that you've surely got to give the police credit enough that they would work it out.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, why are they there?
Why are they there?
Yeah.
Are they doing that to everyone who phones up?
Just laughing at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a Simpsons joke. Just laughing at everyone.
Yeah.
So
basically,
we've got two parts. So we've got two parts to this. One is the police need to wake up.
Yeah.
Start, looking at the clues, looking at what's in front of them. The other thing is how to talk to the police. So both those together would lead to a much more stable
situation.
Yeah.
So basically, to combine the two, it's basically he should phone them and be much more coherent in his reporting of it. And what they should do is go, oh, maybe this is to do with the like 40 missing videographers, that, like missing persons cases that we've got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's imagine if you were that bad at explaining what's happening.
Yeah.
Like you go to the doctor with a broken leg and you're like, oh no, so I got run over. I think I got run over. I wasn't looking. What do you mean? I was looking the other way and it hit me from behind. It could have been anything, I suppose.
Yeah. But like, at least in that, like everything is self-evident because it's like you've got a broken leg. This is more like in a rom-com when there's that scene where someone gets the wrong end of the stick and you're just like, just take a minute and don't and just go, look, I can see what you're thinking, but this is actually the situation that's happened. Yeah. As opposed to like,
it literally saying it's not how it looks, never explaining what's really happening.
Yeah. It's always like the ex is there and she spills a drink on him. So he's like undoing his shirt and then she walks in or something like that. Yeah. Oh, it's not what it's like. I didn't mean, no. Like, it's the police equivalent of that.
Right. It's not how it looks.
Yeah.
Tell me how it looks. Yeah. Tell me what's going on. That's it. That's how you survive.
Yeah. So, any more?
Yeah.
ideas?
Yeah, obviously. That's why we're here. If you do decide to go and meet Joseph, like you've seen a lot of movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'd assume a videographer would probably have seen a lot of movies. That's not a leap of logic.
Yeah.
Now, every movie I've ever seen where someone goes to meet someone, like, and they don't really want to be there, they wait for the other person to show themselves first because that's logic.
Right.
Why?
What? Even if you're there to do a job and you've been given an address?
No, not like going out into the woods, but
Oh, you mean
at the
you
end
mean
when
at
he
the
goes
end?
to meet him at the lake, right?
Right.
He goes to meet him at the lake,
Hmm.
and now if you personally, or if anyone in a film you've ever seen goes to a place, what's the one thing they're worried about?
Well, they're like obviously worried about being attacked.
Right. So why would you fucking like A? Why would you walk out first before you've seen the other person?
Yeah.
Or B? Why would you sit with your back to them?
Yeah, well, again, this ties into something that I'd say, which is about situational awareness.
Yeah.
And like, I'm quite a nervous person. I'm quite
Right.
anxious generally.
Yeah.
And if I was on the way to meet someone who I was nervous could be a like malign individual,
Yeah.
someone with malign intent, like my level of situational awareness would be heightened. I'd be looking around constantly. I'd be like swivel-eyed. He basically goes and sits down on the bench and like stares out into the lake.
Yeah.
Puts his blinkers on.
Yeah.
Like
Puts his earphones in.
Yeah.
Puts a blindfold on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like yeah. I mean, like he shouldn't be so trusting. Basically, like you shouldn't be. I mean, that's I guess the message of the film is that he shouldn't have been so like thought so much of other people. Because that's what ends up getting him killed. But still, I mean, like, there's thinking of people, thinking highly of people,
Right.
and then there's like leaving yourself open to attack.
Yeah. It's pretty like even if he doesn't need to sit down on the bench facing the lake, just face away and he'd see him coming.
Yeah, it's poorly thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Like if you were like in a stakeout, any situation where you think you might be at risk, just wait it out.
yeah,
Wait for them to show up first.
yeah.
Be early. Watch them arrive.
That's what. That's the advice that old Joseph probably took, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the looks of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's well practiced in this.
Yeah.
You get the impression. So
Yeah. So that's advice if you do decide to go. But that brings me to my final piece of advice. Obviously don't go.
right.
So he rings out, he sends a video, doesn't he? And he's like, oh, come and meet me at the lake because I want to be friends with you.
Well, it's basically, I'm going to get help, but I just want to clear the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he pauses it and he's like, oh, he says to the camera for some reason, oh, look how sad he looks. Look how sad he is. Oh. He's a known liar. And like you've seen him lie all through the film. You don't know his name. You don't know his real reasons for making the video. You do know he's a threat. You do know he's been in your house rooting through your bins. You do know he sent you a knife in the post. You do know he's buried something that looks like a body. So as much as you might be a naive person, I don't think anyone's that naive.
If the police were more on top of it, that could have been the successful sting operation.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our old podcast rules talk about not wanting to change the motivations of characters.
Right, so if someone is normally a genial person, don't be like, oh, just tell everyone to fuck off.
Yeah, and like I wonder if it's his character that his personality to be too trusting of people.
I agree with you that that is his fatal flaw, but if he
in
applied
a very literal sense,
if he applied a modest amount of logic to the situation, that's not breaking his character.
No.
His motivation is not to be illogical, surely.
No.
It's not that he's putting 2 and 2 together to make 5.
Yeah.
It's that he's putting like nothing and nothing together to make I'll definitely go to the lake and be fine.
He's putting 2 and 2 together to get 4, and 4 means he will die, and going, well, I'll just take 4 anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Poor guy, though.
Yeah.
It's a sad film for old Aaron, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you reckon he'd be back in 2?
No, don't think so. In a literal sense?
He's
or-
credited.
Is he? In number 2? Maybe he appears on video. Who could say?
Yeah.
I mean,
the amount of video he made, you probably get 4 or 5 films out of him just talking to camera.
well, I mean, that neatly leads on to my final point as well, which actually links back to what you were saying about why is he filming himself. He's filming himself from the very beginning, so it's not just motivated by his experiences with Joseph, clearly, because he's somewhat of a vlogger anyway. But my piece of advice is very simple. and very mundane. Don't film and drive at the same time.
Dangerous. Doesn't kill him.
But it leads to his death.
So if he hadn't, maybe he'd have skidded off the road and saved him.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, he does.
It's good advice, isn't it? To not film and drive, right?
Exactly.
Are you debating that?
No one is saying that you should film and drive.
No. Correct. Definitely don't do that.
No. So, good advice, yeah. I mean, we'd all survive if we don't... If I saw someone filming and driving, I'd say that's dangerous. They're going to get themselves killed.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what happens to Aaron.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether or not it's related to him filming and driving doesn't matter. It's good survival advice. And that's our remit here at How to Survive.
Yeah.
So that was episode 115 of the How to Survive podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And if you want to get in touch, suggest a film like Kat did for this week's episode, then that email address again is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com, or get in touch on Twitter at howtosurvivepod or facebook.com/howtosurvivepod.
Yeah. Thanks, Kat, for that recommendation.
Yeah.
Did Kat give any thoughts on how she'd survive? No. Didn't bother with that? No, just...
She said she really enjoyed it, though.
Barking instructions, but not barking...
Not getting involved.
Advice, yeah.
Yeah. Next week, Joe, it's the hot new release, isn't it, in cinemas?
Yeah, the one we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
It's a revisit to, years and years ago, a movie came out which kind of changed an entire genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's been released, various versions of it have been released in DVD.
Yeah.
Different cuts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's been talking about it lately.
Yeah.
The reviewers have had it.
A field day.
Yeah, exactly.
The sequel is finally out in cinemas after all this time.
Yes.
It's felt like decades.
Yeah. And that movie is Jigsaw. And we're not doing Blade Runner 2049.
No.
We're doing
Jigsaw.
Yep. Blade Runner 2049 is a good film. Jigsaw.
Well, we haven't seen it yet, so
No.
don't pass judgment. And I know what you're thinking, listener, that we've never watched any of the Saw films, at least not on the podcast. But that's where you're wrong, because coming Halloween as a special treat, we have our first video to be released.
Shot over an 11-hour period.
Yeah. We watched every Saw film back to back on camera.
Yeah.
There was fun. There was games.
Yeah. We were, to be clear, we were chained to the wall.
Yeah.
So that we would experience it as if we were in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a joke.
No.
This is all something that actually happened.
Yeah. Last week we recorded it. It's coming out Halloween day itself.
Yes.
And
tell your friends.
Yes. Tell your friends. Tell them everything about that.
Yeah.
And stay tuned. If you want to, you'll be the first to receive it if you go to Twitter and follow us at HowToSurvivePod.
Yeah.
It's going to be posted there. And it's going to be posted on Facebook. Facebook.com/HowToSurvivePod. All those places that you can find us on video. You've heard our voices for years and years now. And you probably think, these are two huge, muscular, blonde-haired, blue-eyed behemoths.
Yeah. And what you're probably thinking is you've got an image of us from, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you're going to have an image of us, and there's only one way to confirm or not confirm that, whether or not that's right.
Yeah. Do you ever, when you listen to a podcast, look up what people look like?
Yeah.
And then go like,
the fuck?
Do you think that's going to happen here?
Probably, yeah. Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is, of course, by watching the video.
Yeah. Excited?
Yeah.
You excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to be good. Going to be
big. To finish editing it first.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. It's easy to cut down 11 hours of content into a bite-sized chunk.
Yeah. Sure it is. Don't have to do it. Don't mind.
Great.
We'll see you next week for Jigsaw. Same time, same place. Wednesday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see us the day before that watching Saw back to back over 11 hours whilst chained to a wall.
I wanted to die after.
Yeah, it would better be worth it. If every single person listening to this doesn't go and watch the video, I'll be like, why do we bother?
Yeah.
Why do we bother doing these things for these ingrates?
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.